What is that poem? The poem is called as a Barren Woman, isn't it? And which is written by the poet Sylvia Plath. So it is another poem of Sylvia Plath after Mirror, isn't it? So what do you think about the word called as a barren? What do you mean by barren? We sometimes say barren land.
Barren woman ही बोलते हैं क्या?
The barren woman, you find out the title is given. But barren land, you must have heard.
खाली.
The degenerate, isn't it? Infertility means that doesn't have the ability to grow natural things. Natural things. Yes, barrenness. Isn't it? That's what I was telling. So when you say barren woman, think of it. The title makes us think about what? About the woman who doesn't have the ability to, means, to infertility, right? Or to, birth child, isn't it? But at the same time, if you look into it, barren also called as a, degenerate, right? So in this, just a moment. Sir, good morning. Again. Delicate sir. देखो जी हाँ पण थांब तू सर खडे पर again. Okay, so what I was telling you, the title Barren Woman, right? Like I ask you the question, what do you mean by barren? And you understand the meaning of barren. It's called a degenerate, and we also call it as what infertility, right? So this title itself indicates nothing but a kind of an emotion, right? Or it indicates nothing but the suffering also, you can say, isn't it? So it directly reflects the central theme of the poem, if you see. So it shows that the infertility and the deep emotional pain, how they are associated with the woman, isn't it? So it also said that the word barren, that signifies that the woman who do not have the ability to bear children. So which aligns with the speaker's feelings. Speaker's feelings of what? The emptiness and unfulfilled potential. Unfulfilled potential means what? They do not have that potential to satisfy what the society demands, what the norms which have been implemented for the woman, isn't it? So throughout the point, if you see that the imagery of grand but the lifeless structures, imagery of grand but lifeless structures. So when we say that imagery grand but lifeless structures means what? Now that called as a museum that do not have statues. Then can we call it a museum? No, no. So museum without statue, a fountain that recycle itself, or you can say that a marble lilies, isn't it? So it reinforces the speaker's sense of what the sterility and isolation. It shows nothing but how the speaker is struggling and feeling herself in a lonely, alone. By choosing this title, you can say that what Sylvia Plath encapsulates or called as associates both the physical and emotional barrenness, physical and emotional barrenness of the speaker, isn't it? So it shows nothing but a powerful and fitting representation of the theme of the poem, right? So if I talk about the poet herself, means Sylvia Plath. So she was born in the year of 1932, and her death occurred in the year of 1963. 1932, 1963. So she was an American poet and short story writer who known for her deeply personal and confessional style. Personal and confessional style. It means whatever she suffers, she confesses through her writing, isn't it? So she explored themes of nothing but what mental illness, or you talk about identity, femininity, and existential despair in her works. Now, what do you feel? What do you think about mental illness? If you talk about mental illness, means she suffers with the uh, uh, abnormality, right? Now, do you know that why it all happens? It all happens because of her personal experience, right? So her husband, who have a extramarital affair, and because of that, then Sylvia Plath suffers, isn't it? She finds out her dad also, right, who also had some kind of a means the this distance from his daughter. That also makes Sylvia Plath nothing but a kind of a mental trauma or shock, isn't it? Second, it's called as identity. When you talk about identity, it indicates nothing but how during that period of time, right, women were not given that, you know, that opportunity, right, and not giving also that importance, isn't it? So identity. Third one, it's called as a femininity. So femininity is called as a female. At the same time, if you compare between a woman and men, you find out women are weak in some cases, not in weak means that the society thinks, right? That the weakness you would find out the physical, right? Difference you would find out, and existential despair, struggling with sadness in her works. So Sylvia Plath's poetry is often marked by what striking imagery. Striking imagery means you can see that, you can visualize that the kind of suffering uh, she has suffered. So intense emotions, so deep emotions, and a sense of psychological depth, right? So her most famous works, you can say that Ariel, that called as a poetry collection. You can say the bell jar. What is that bell jar? The bell jar is nothing but a semi-autobiographical. So semi-autobiographical novel, and poems like you can say Daddy, right, which I told you. So Lady Lazarus and Mirror. So Plath struggled with depression throughout her life, and tragically died by suicide. You know, how did she commit suicide? Just read the man's Sylvia Plath's commitment to suicide. You would be, you know, surprised. So she did suicide. She committed suicide, or she died by suicide in the year of 1963. Despite her short life, she remains one of the most influential poets. Right. She remained one of the most influential poets of the 20th century, and particularly in the confessional poetry movement. You may get a kind of a question: confessional poetry movement. What is that? Right. So this poem, you know, carries a lot of emotion, and that's what we will learn here. Let's go to the poem. So, Barren Woman by Sylvia Plath. What is the poem is all about? It's nothing but a two stanza. The poem begins with empty, I echo to the least footfall. Empty, I echo to the least footfall. Museum without statues, grand with the pillars, porticos, rotundas. In my courtyard, a fountain lives and sinks back into itself. Nun-hearted and blind to the world, marble lilies exhale their pallor like scent. I imagine myself with a great public, mother of a white Nike and several bald-eyed Apollos. Instead, the dead injure me with attentions and nothing can happen. Blank faced and mum as a nurse. Right. Now, when you see that, means the two stanza poems covers with means what you can say that empty and hollow. Like the first line stated what? Empty, I echo to the least footfall. Empty, I echo to the least footfall. It means the speaker describes herself as being empty. Herself. The speaker consider herself that she is empty. Empty means she doesn't have anything, right? And hollow. So she is both physically and emotionally empty and hollow. The echo means you understand the sound that repeats. The echo suggests loneliness and absence of life. What is that? Absurdness or absence of suggest what? Loneliness and the absence of life. So she feels herself alone, and also nothing in her life. So, as if she, you can say, exists in a vast deserted space. It means she finds herself in the deserted land, right? So, surrounded with nothing but the sand only, right? So, no natural plants or nothing is present. So, the least footfall implies that nothing but even the slightest movement, the least footfall. What do you mean by footfall? Footfall is indicating nothing but you walk, right? Yeah. So football. The least football implies that what slightest movement around her is amplified in her emptiness. Amplified, you understand? Even no one is present in the room, but when you speak slowly also, you find out that the louder sound, isn't it? The same thing it is stated, the least football. So empty, I go to the least football. So means my life is nothing but filled with alone, loneliness, and empty. And I'm physically and emotionally means income. What you can say that empty and hollow. So she also suggested that my life is full of alone and absence, and means I'm living in a vast deserted space, and even means my own footfall, right, makes me sound in a louder manner, amplified. Amplified is called as huge sound, right? So museum without statues, grand with the pillars, porticos, rotundas. Now, museum without statues, what do you mean by that? She compares herself. She compares herself, like with whom? She compares herself to a museum. Like I said, no, museum that lacks statues. An architectural space that mean to showcase life and beauty, but standing lifeless. Museum without statues, grand with the pillars. An architectural space that mean to showcase life and beauty, but standing lifeless. The grandeur of the pillars, when you say that the grandeur of the pillars, porticos, rotundas, now they suggest what? They suggest an external dignity or structure. Pillars, porticos, rotundas indicates nothing but the dignity or structure, but internally there is nothing of substance. I don't have all those strength. It shows nothing but the direct comparison reinforces our sense of what? Sense of unfulfilled potential and sterility, isn't it? So when the poet states that museum without statues, grand with the pillars, porticos, rotundas. So why does she point out such kind of a line? She points out such kind of a line to make compare that museum, like the woman, without statues, without having what all kind of qualities. So when she points out that pillars, porticos, rotundas, so these are the things which are nothing but called as a strength, and those of the things are absent in her, isn't it? So she also said, "In my courtyard, a fountain leaps. In my courtyard, a fountain leaps and sinks back into itself." So she said that a fountain often symbolic of what? A fountain often symbolic of fertility, right? So fertility and life. So it's depicted here as a futile, isn't it? So the water lips. So the water lips momentarily, but ultimately water sinks back into itself, highlighting the cyclic, self-contained nature of our existence, one that doesn't breathe new life. Did you see that fountain? In the middle of the park, you would find out the fountain which flow means throws water and it comes back again and it goes. But at the same time, did you ever find out that the same water goes to the means goes and sprayed everywhere and create new life? No, in fountain generally it doesn't do that, right? Because in fountain, what happened? It is used for the sake of what? Enjoyment, entertainment, right? That water is not used for the means creating new life. Creating new life means what? For the sake of nature, plants, right? We generally find out that water for the sake of entertainment, isn't it? So that is the same thing it is stated. The poet also compares herself with the means, fountain. So what did she say? In my courtyard, a fountain that jumps and sinks back. Jumps and sinks. Lips means jumps and come back into itself, isn't it? So that shows nothing but means a fountain, often, not always, often considered nothing but a fertility and life. So, but what happened? It's a futile, isn't it? So the water momentarily gives happiness, but ultimately sinks back into itself, and highlighting the cyclic nature, cyclic means that are kind of a cyclical rotation, you can say, self-contained nature of our existence. Non-hearted, non-hearted and blind to the world. Non-hearted and blind to the world. It means the speaker likens herself to a nun. I hope you all know that nun. Uh, so maybe the omen of the church, you can say. The speaker likens herself to a nun. So that implies nothing but an emotional detachment, isn't it? So purity, chastity, and a kind of forced, or you can say that involuntary isolation from the world. Involuntary means even if she did not want, she is forced to become detached from the society, right? Or detached from the world. So blind to the world. It is stated, no, non-hearted and blind to the world. So blind to the world means suggested an inability to engage with the outside people, possibly due to sadness, despair, or you can say self-imposed exile. Self-imposed exile means what? She herself made, or she herself uh, created a kind of rule, not rule not to mix with the outside world. She wants to detach from the outside world. That is what. That is what called as a means blind to the world, isn't it? So marble lilies exhale their pallor like scent. Marble lilies exhale their pallor like scent. So when we talk about lilies, what do you mean by lilies? So you can say that lily flowers. So lilies often symbolize also purity and or you can say mourning. Mourning, you understand? When somebody die, right? You go with the lily flower because it's a white in color. It is garlanded and it is given to that, right? So lilies often symbolizing what? The purity or mourning. But here, in this point, they are made of marble, right? They're made of marble. What do you mean by marble? Marble, which is called as a lifeless. The object, marble, which is the lifeless. So they are made of marble, meaning they are lifeless, cold, and artificial, isn't it? So exhale their pallor like scent. When we say that exhale like pallor, it means they stated that it is an eerie image, right? It is an eerie image, suggests that even what should be fragrant and what should be beautiful flowers only emanates a pale, or you can say ghostly presence. So the flowers that generally spreads smell, right, are called as a fragrance. Smell, even a negative word, fragrance. Fragrance means called as a aromatic, right? Aromatic even used with the food, right? So fragrance is the appropriate. Fragrance is called as a scent, right? So fragrance, and beauty. But only emanates what? Only emanates means only produce a pale. Pale means odd, ghostly presence. All odd and ghostly presence. Again, that reinforces sterility and lifelessness, which is nothing but a ghost. Whom do you call ghost? Somebody who has no light, spirit. So, what do you mean by odd? Odd means something which is not light, isn't it? So, in that case, the poet wants to convey that these flowers are even compared with the woman, that the women are the symbol of beauty. The women are the symbol of what? You can say that fragrance, right? But these women are simply, restricted from the society, right? Exiled from the society. So they have been called barren, empty, hollow. So that indicates that is similar to that the flowers, which are the symbol of fragrance and symbol of beauty. So they are even called as a pale or ghostly presence. So again, it reinforces nothing but a what? Sterility and lifelessness. Clear my point? Now, when we go to the next one, it is stated, I imagine myself with a great public. I means what? The poet. The poet who is the speaker. So I imagine myself with a great public, mother of a white Nike and several bald-eyed Apollos. Now, see that I imagine myself with a great public. What do you mean by that? The speaker fantasizes. Fantasize, you understand, dreaming. The speaker dreams about what being admired and revered. Being admired and revered. So, admired means people admire that omen. So, people respect that omen, revered. Revered is called as respected. So, the speaker dreams about what being admired by the people, being respected by the people. So, and imagine herself as a mother of powerful, godlike children. Because it is stated, no, I imagine myself with a great public, mother of a white Nike and several bald eyed Apollos. So, the poet stated that means people admire me, people means respect me. Why? Means because they believe that I'm the mother, right? We call mother, right? So I imagine myself as a mother of powerful, godlike children, right? So Nike, the goddess of victory. Who is Nike? The goddess of victory, isn't it? And Apollos. Who is Apollo? The symbols of art and architect. So if you talk about means Nike and Apollos, who are they? They are nothing but called the victory, art, and intellect. Got my point? So this suggests her deep desire for motherhood and creation, isn't it? Now, please to understand that Nike and Apollos are the children of the greatest mother, because Nike and Apollos are the god of victory and symbol of art and architect. If they are the children of such a mother, right? So the mother must be proud, isn't it? So that is why this suggests the mother deep desire for motherhood and creation. So she wants also means actual mother, right or not? So desire of motherhood and creation. But the fact that she is only imagining it highlights the contrast with her reality. Now, what is dream? What is reality? So that means she knows. She knows that she cannot become a mother, right? But she desires to be a mother like Apollo and Nike, isn't it? So instead, the dead injure me with attention and nothing can happen. Instead, the dead injure me with attentions and nothing can happen. So the poet says that rather than having living children, rather than having living children, she is hunted by the dead. The dead injured me with attention. So rather than having living children, she is hunted by the dead, possibly miscarriages. You know that when women who do not have the babies, right? So women means who do not have the babies. So why? There are reasons behind it. So they may not keep the baby, or you can say that their ovary might be thinner or weaker, isn't it? That could be the reason, isn't it? So that is why the poet here said that rather than having living children, so they do not have that ability to keep the living children. So what happened means she is hunted by the dead. She is hunted by the dead means we are talking about the miscarriages, and when miscarriages held, you don't have the living being baby. Or you can say that a kind of a stillburns means what we call that. So miscarriages, stillburns, or you can say that simply the ghost of unfulfilled motherhood. Right on. So when you talk about the phrase, the dead injure me with attentions, it indeed suggests that what even memories or reminders of means these lost potentials are painful. Memories or reminders, like you miscarried the baby, or your baby born with a disability, or your born with disability is okay, no issue. Uh, but the problem is called as stillbirths, miscarriages. So those after happened, what happened means after happening those of the things, those memories are creating fear to you, right? Or the reminders of those means lost all kind of ability of yours, and they are painful, isn't it? So the poet said that, and nothing can happen. And because of those reminders, what happened? Further emphasizes our helplessness and finality. Right. So the last line where it is stated, blank faced and mom as a nurse. Blank faced and mom as a nurse. So the poem ends. Ends with the what? Ends with the image of the speaker as a silent mom. Right. So blank faced and mom as a nurse. So the poem ends with the what image of the speaker as a silent expressionless nurse. Expressionless nurse means what? Neither the nurse show the happiness, nor the means sad, isn't it? So that's why nurse, isn't it? Expressionless nurse, someone who meant to care for others but remaining passive and voiceless, want to care others, isn't it? But remaining what? A passive and voiceless. She can't speak, she can't also help directly. So blank faced. So when we say that blank faced, that suggests a resignation. Resignation means what? That called as rejected, right? So resignation, rejected, and the mom silent. That shows the theme of nothing but barrenness. That shows the theme of what? Barrenness, not just physically, but also emotionally. Right. So overall, if you see that what? The poem is a meditation. So meditation of what? Meditation on infertility, isolation, and the deep desiring for motherhood. Right. So the use of grand but empty imagery, you can say that that reflects nothing but a speaker's feeling of loneliness, sterility, and loneliness. So the contrast between the her fantasy, her imagination of being a powerful, life-giving mother, and her reality of emptiness creates nothing but a sad sense of loss or poignant sense of loss. So the final line of the poem suggests nothing but a resignation, as she is reduced to a silent observer of life rather than an active participant. Isn't it? This is what the poem is all. Well, there are certain poetic devices in the poem, Barren Woman. You can see, we find out imagery where museum without statues, grand with the pillars, porticos, rotundas, marble lilies, exhale their pallor like scent. So these images create nothing but a visual of an empty, lifeless place, symbolizing the speaker's unfulfilled motherhood. Isn't it? When you talk about statues without museum without statue, you can see lilies, like marble lilies. So when you talk about marble, you see the kind of a picture of marble, lifeless. So metaphor, museum without statues. So museum without statues, which is comparing, it's called as a woman without having potential of being a motherhood, right? So that's called as a kind of a comparison. The museum symbolizes the speaker's body or life, and the missing statues represent the absence of children. Isn't it? Similar to that fountain lives and sinks back into itself. The fountain's repetitive motion mirrors nothing but the speaker's isolation and unchanging conditions. So she doesn't want change, right? So these are called as a metaphor, right? So what are the things that you find out? Imagery, metaphor. Third is called as a symbolism. When you talk about symbolism, it indicates several objects in the poem that symbolizes barrenness and emotional detachment, right? So what are they? Like you can say marble lilies represent lifeless beauty and sterility. Second is called as the Nike and Apollo. These mythological figures um, symbolize the children the speaker desires, symbolize the children the speaker desire for but cannot have. Isn't it? Even you also find out the dead who injure her. So that could symbolize lost pregnancies, miscarriages, or even societal expectations that, that creates a kind of a fear in her mind, haunt her, or create a home in her mind. So next is called as a personification. We also find out personification by stating that giving human qualities to inanimate object like marble lilies, isn't it? So exhale their palo-like scent. Marble lilies exhale like palo-like scent. So this makes the lifeless lilies appearing capable of breathing or reinforcing the contrast between life and barrenness. So that's why we consider personification. We also find out alliteration. We know that alliteration is called as a repetitive of consonant sounds that adds musicality to the poem, right? So, like you can point out blank faced, right? So alliteration, and as a, and as a, and mom as a nurse. So even marble lilies exhale their pallor, right? So these rhythmic quality, right? These instances create a rhythmic quality while emphasizing the points. What you said that bleak tone, right? Beside that, also you find out another one that called as a contrast. Contrast, what is that? And that's called as a juxtaposition. Juxtaposition. Juxtaposition, which is called as a contrast. So the poem opposes the speaker's imagined fertility with her actual barrenness. So create an oppose or a contrast to each other. So, like you can say, I imagine myself with a great public, mother of a white Nike and several bald-eyed Apollos. So indicates nothing but a hope and desire. But that's again called as a contrast. Instead, the dead endure with me with attention, and nothing can happen. So the harsh reality, right? Nothing can happen. So this shows nothing but the contrast deepens the speaker's sadness by highlighting her lost potentiality, isn't it? So finally, if I say that what the conclusion can be what Sylvia Plath uses the kind of poetic devices in a masterfully way, right? So to express the emotional disturbance, emotional turmoil, a woman facing infertility. So it also indicates the stark imagery. Stark means called as a severe, given with the pictures, right? Metaphors, comparison, and juxtaposition between expectation and reality. Between expectation and reality, make the poem Barren Woman a poignant exploration of loss and desire. Right on. Those of the things are there. If I talk about the poem Barren Woman, means having with the tone, having with the language, having with the setting, right? So what are the tone, language, and setting? How do you draw that the poem tone is all about? Can you point out what kind of a tone the poem has?
Soft emotions.
Anything else? Very good. So yes, you can say that when it's depressive, soft, suppressed, sorrowful, resignation, dejected, hopeless, or you can say that melancholy, isn't it? You think of different kinds of a tone by when you listen to each line and how the speaker herself is a mother, isn't it? So a desire to be a mother, not a mother, desire to be a mother, right? So and why she says all such kind of a things? Now because she has already experienced, isn't it? She has already experienced certain things. So therefore, you can say the tone of the poem is nothing but a melancholic, resignation, sorrowful, right? So the speaker expresses what a deep sense of emptiness and sadness due to infertility. Might be she lost means uh, couple of miscarriages occur to her, right? Or maybe because of her inability to bear a baby, so society means uh, looks at her in a different manner, isn't it? So therefore, what we can say that that shows nothing but the resignation, sorrowful, and melancholic in our point. So there is also an undertone of bitterness and desire. Undertone, right? Undertone of bitterness means khatta, bitterness, so and desire. As she, contrast her reality with the idealized image of motherhood. Right. She wishes to have, but she doesn't. So the poem carries a sense of emotional detachment. Right. So when she realizes that the emotion, something which is missing in her, so as if the speaker has accepted the reality. Right. She accepted her fate, but still mourns it. Right. So that is what the tone that you find out in this poem. Second, it's called as the kind of a language that the poet uses. When we say that the language, Sylvia Plath employs nothing but a formal, right? You can say evocative. Formal means called as a no slang, nothing, no informal, no impolite. So formal and evocative. Evocative means called as influential, right? It will touch to the feminist what do you women society or women. So third is called as a highly symbolic language in the poem. Highly symbolic in this poem is called as a like you talk about museum, you talk about statues, you talk about marble lilies. So symbolic. So and the word is rich. Diction. Diction is rich in metaphor, imagery, and symbolism. Right. So and that's what nothing but the theme of barrenness. Those are indicating nothing but the theme of barrenness. The use of words such as empty, eco, dead, blind, pallor, and nothing contributes to the poem's desolate mood. So these are nothing but creating nothing but a hopeless mood. When you say I don't have anything, it's a hopeless. When you say that what means you are living in a kind of a place and you hear the kind of a sound, that also dead. You feel dead. You feel blind. You can't see the positivity. So pallor and all such kind of a things are nothing but the example of desolate mood. So the language is, concise, to the point, but deeply powerful. So they express the speaker's emotional state with the stark, vivid description, right? So at the same time, if you talk about the setting, right? Remember, what did I tell you? I told you the tone, I told you the language. Then the setting is what the poem is. If you look into it, the poem is set in a grand but empty museum. You can say that when you find out the no statue is present. So it is a metaphor for the speaker's body and life, right? So the museum without statues. So that shows infertility. While a museum is a means to house valuable art, isn't it? Valuable art. This one is nothing but a void of skepticism, or sorry, the void of what? Sculptures, right? So just as the speaker lacks children, just as the speaker lacks children, museum lacks statues. The fountain in the courtyard is also another which lifts the sinks back into itself. Now you find out setting means what, background, where you find out such kind of a things. Fountain in the courtyard, statue in the museum, that can be called as a setting, right? So that represents nothing but a repetitive cycles of desire. So desire that comes one after another, isn't it? So, and they make you disappointment, sad. So the marble lilies further reinforces the cold and lifeless atmosphere, cold and lifeless atmosphere of the setting. Right. When we say that marble lilies, lilies which are nothing but the flowers, right? We find out where it produces. It produces in the cold areas. So that's why this was, that is what the speaker, that is what the setting that the speaker represents, right? So finally, if I talk about the main idea of this point is nothing but the pain of infertility and the desiring for motherhood is nothing but the main idea of this point, right? So the speaker sees herself as a mother of great godlike children, but instead she is left feeling empty and hunted by the barrenness, right? So it shows that the poem highlights the societal expectation of women to bear children and